My name is Margaret Hayes, and I am 66 years old. What I am about to share completely changed my life forever. The funeral for my beloved husband Ernest was the quietest and most painful day of my existence. As I stood beside his grave with a broken heart, my phone suddenly vibrated with a message from an unknown number. The words I read sent ice-cold fear running through my entire body. The message said, "I'm alive, that's not me in the casket." My hands trembled so violently that I could barely type a reply asking who it was. The response came instantly, "I can't say. They're watching. Don't trust our sons." At that moment, my world shattered into 1,000 pieces. I looked at Charles and Henry standing near the casket with strangely calm expressions on their faces. For 42 years, Ernest had been my best friend, my partner, and my greatest love. We met when I was 24 in our small town of Spring Creek and fell in love under the old oak tree in the town square. We built a simple but happy life together, despite being poor. Ernest repaired bicycles while I cleaned houses and sewed clothes to support our family. When Charles and Henry were born, our hearts overflowed with joy and hope for the future. As the boys grew older, everything slowly began to change. Charles became ambitious and looked down on his father's humble work. Henry followed his older brother in everything. They moved to the city, got successful jobs in real estate, and started making good money. Their visits became rare and uncomfortable as they arrived in expensive cars wearing fancy clothes. They began treating us with pity and shame for our simple lifestyle. Charles married Jasmine, a woman from the city who openly showed disgust for our old house and modest ways. She barely touched the food I prepared with love and suggested we sell our home to move into a retirement community. Both sons started pressuring us to sell the house and give them early inheritance. Ernest felt deep sadness, seeing how money had changed our boys. I kept hoping they would return to the loving sons we once raised. The pressure increased month after month, until the terrible Tuesday morning, when Ernest left for his shop as usual. I received a call from the hospital saying he had been in a serious accident. When I arrived, Charles and Henry were already there, which surprised me. The doctors said he had severe burns and brain injury from a machine explosion. Something about their behavior felt wrong from the beginning. For 3 days, I stayed at the hospital praying for Ernest's recovery. My sons talked more about insurance policies and money than about their father's condition. On the 3rd day, the doctors told us there was no hope. Ernest passed away early Friday morning. Charles and Henry quickly arranged a rushed and small funeral. They seemed more focused on handling documents than grieving their father. Standing at the grave, the mysterious messages continued coming. The sender warned me not to trust my sons. That night I began investigating and discovered many suspicious things. There were large unexplained withdrawals from our bank account. At the shop, there were no signs of any explosion at all. Ernest had left secret notes expressing his growing suspicion about Charles and Henry. A private investigator named Stephen contacted me. He revealed that Ernest had hired him weeks earlier because he feared our sons. Stephen played recordings where Charles and Henry planned to poison Ernest with methanol to collect life insurance money. They had also planned to declare me mentally incompetent and eventually kill me too. The evidence was overwhelming and heartbreaking. The next day, Stephen and I went to the police station with all the proof. Sergeant O'Connell was shocked by the recordings and documents. Arrest warrants were issued immediately. At dawn, Charles and Henry were arrested for the murder of their father and conspiracy to murder me. The whole town was stunned by the news of such a terrible crime. The trial was one of the most painful experiences of my life. The courtroom was packed with people from town. The prosecutor played the chilling audio recordings of my sons planning the murder in cold blood. When the recording about killing me was played, the audience gasped in horror. I testified about how I raised them with love and sacrifice only to be betrayed so brutally. Stephen testified about the investigation and all the evidence he had gathered at Ernest's request. The medical examiner confirmed lethal levels of methanol in Ernest's body after exhumation. Charles and Henry's lawyers tried to defend them, but the proof was undeniable. After 3 days of testimony, the jury returned with their verdict. Charles and Henry were found guilty of first-degree murder and conspiracy. The judge sentenced both to life in prison without parole for 30 years. Justice was finally served for my dear Ernest. Charles later took his own life in prison, while Henry suffered a complete mental breakdown. Their greed destroyed their lives completely. I donated all the insurance money to create the Ernest Hayes Foundation. This foundation helps victims of family financial abuse and crimes. I turned Ernest's old shop into a beautiful flower garden. Every Sunday, I take fresh flowers to his grave and talk to him about everything. Stephen has become a loyal and dear friend who visits regularly. 5 years have passed since that fateful day at the cemetery. I am now 71 years old with completely white hair. My eyes now shine with peace and strength that wasn't there before. The house feels warm and full of good memories again. I have turned our pain into hope for many other families. True family is not only about blood, but about love, loyalty, and respect. Ernest was my real family for 42 years. The friends and neighbors who supported me became my new family. I learned that it is never too late to seek justice. Even at 66 years old, I found the courage to fight back. To anyone facing family betrayal or abuse, remember you are never too old to protect yourself. Love should never hurt you for money or convenience. Speak the truth and seek help when needed. Strength comes when you decide to stop being silent. Justice may be painful, but it brings real peace. My story has become a warning to many about the dangers of greed. The foundation continues to help dozens of families every year. I feel Ernest's presence with me every day in the garden and on the porch. His death was not in vain. It became a source of hope and justice for others. Did you like my story of betrayal, murder, and ultimate justice? Please tell me in the comments which city or country you are watching from. If this story touched your heart, like the video and subscribe for more powerful life stories. Share your thoughts about what you would do in my place. Thank you for listening to my journey.